Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. You know what? Yeah, I lost it.
No, come on now. You gotta wait till I say say go. All right, go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Hey, everybody. You found us. This is the Living Water Boys with some hot takes on sports and church life. I got nothing. I got to think about this. Oh, this is so bad. I'm so nervous. Why am I so nervous? What am I going to say? What was I say at the very beginning?
You want to save it? We could do it after.
I think I'm going to have more energy now than I am after. If I could just think
really
for a
excited,
minute.
Hey guys, you found us right here on.
I know. I'm just trying to remember the stuff we said the very first episode. Anyway, okay. Got it. Everybody, welcome in. You found us. This is the Living Water Boys. We are hot takes on sports and church life. That's right. The Living Water Boys. We all know that Jesus goes to everybody and offers them a drink of the living water. And so that's what we try to offer you, both in terms of faith and also in terms of what's going on in the world of sports, which is our passion, along with the world of faith. I am the Reverend Big Al, and with me always is McBrien, as well as our dedicated producer, Will the Thrill. We thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoy. You can always catch us on Twitter at the Living Water Boys and hit us up with questions at the hashtag AskLWB. Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoy it.
Perfect.
Blessings.
Blessings. Good tidings to you.
We can do that for now and maybe improve on it in the future. How about that?
All right, perfect. I'll chop it out and get it on there.
Yeah, there was like one moment where I was kind of hesitant. So, all right.
Hey, we lived by faith.
That's right. But don't you guys script out these episodes? No.
I gotta start another one. I'm not.
What?
She said
for class?
Yeah, she said that I could use this one, but the way she wants us to set these up, it would mess the whole thing up.
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna have to start another one, so I might get.
Is it supposed to be you as a solo or what? I got lots of content.
It can be me as a solo, like you ever listen to NPR stuff?
I think it should be Reverend Big Al reads the lyrics to today's hot pop songs.
That would be great.
I said, "You's a big fine woman. Won't you back that ass up?"
What is that from?
Juvenile. Oh man, I'm so damn old. That was cool when I was in 8th grade. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do, Warrington.
Mm-hmm.
What's popular now? What if you had me on there? I'm bringing sexy back.
Again, that was
That's
like
not
4 years ago.
Yeah, I don't know any of the current ones. But if you sent them to me, it's all the stupid stuff we did at camp.
Yeah, that's some of them. You could do some Lil Wayne, maybe just to be funny because it's incredibly inappropriate. And
yeah, dude, the tunes we were playing at basketball tonight, I was not okay with. And we were playing in a church gym. I was like, I'm kind of uncomfortable. He said pussy a lot.
Getting him
like a lot. Like I'm spotting up for 3 and he drops the P-bomb.
Oh boy.
All right, let's get started.
All right, you ready?
Who wants to you want me to welcome because I got the energy. That's fine.
Yeah. And so I'm going to transition us.
Popeye has had a can of spinach.
To basketball, and let's go chunks of 5 at a time.
I can't read what that says.
Okay, I think we need to tear it out. That's okay. We'll do chunks of 5 at a time.
We could do
That's fine.
chunks of 3. 5 chunks of 3.
Well, no, I guess what I mean by tier, well, it's too complicated to tear it out. That's fine. However you want to do it, man, I'm just going to roll with you until you're wrong.
All right. We'll just usher it in.
Because think about when was the last time we went head-to-head on something and I got it wrong and you got it right? Pick a game. Pick anything.
I think you should state that to our listeners. Let's go. Yeah. Let's not waste the takes.
Okay. Will, are you ready?
I'm ready when you all are.
So can I start talking and we're live?
Yeah.
Is this on? Is this on? Is this on?
Give me some quiet time before you start. Give me like 5 seconds. Like
a Bible
ready?
study.
5, 4.
Like a Bible study. That's right. Here we are, the Living Water Boys, interrupting your quiet. Another episode full of.
What? We gotta start over.
I can't say interrupting your quiet time. We should have faithful listeners who are reading their Bible.
We have to start over because
it just glitched big time.
What?
You
it glitched big time?
Yeah, it's very big time.
It could not handle your passion.
It could not handle the passion.
All right. I'm just gonna ramble. Are you hearing all of these words clear?
Yes, go.
What the hell? Okay. Hey, everybody, welcome in. Here we are, the Living Water Boys, interrupting another one of your quiet times because we know that you are always faithfully reading your Bible and praying in the evening time. But here we are. It is the Reverend Big Al himself in Raleigh, North Carolina, McBrien in Washington, D.C., Alexandria, Virginia, the suburbs, and Will the Thrill in Columbia, South Carolina, back at school for another semester. We are glad to bring you another episode of the Living Water Boys. McBrien, what's new in A-Town?
Well, greetings from the north. We had a little winter weather last week. I understand you did in Raleigh too, and the town is still shut down, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right. There is still some whiteness on the grass outside my house, but I think it'll be gone by the morning. Luckily, we don't know what to do with it. There have been people afraid to drive for days, so we are glad. You know, the Bible repeatedly says, do not fear, and I'm glad that those words are soothing the people of Raleigh this evening. Will the Thrill, what's new down in the armpit known as Columbia?
It's quiet with the Clemson flag hanging high above the state capitol building today in Columbia. We are all,
Morning.
Alabama. But you know what? That being said, it's all okay because 5 points is still popping.
Absolutely. And sure to turn up after that big basketball win for the Gamecocks over the Tennessee Volunteers tonight up in Knoxville. Always good to see Sindarius Thornwell and Dim Boys turning up for Frank Martin. Anyway, McBrien, what's on the agenda for this evening?
Well, tonight we have a really special treat. We're going to be talking ACC basketball. Now, it's not even up for debate that the ACC is the best basketball conference. Some would say it's up for debate when it comes to football, but as we saw on Monday night, it really isn't. The ACC reigns supreme. Now, listeners, you have few people in the universe who watch more ACC basketball than the Reverend Big Al. So just as a warning, you are getting some very educated insight here. So we are offering you our first ACC basketball power rankings. That's right, 1 through 15. I'm going to tee it off, and then we'll hear how Reverend Big Al's ACC power rankings compare to mine. So out of the gate, I think it's no surprise. I'm going to go with FSU. Big Al, who do you have at number 1?
Wow, that's a bold pick. They certainly have started off well, going undefeated. They have great athletes. But again, if you remember back to our preseason ACC preview, I explained that Leonard Hamilton always looks like the coach who just left a strip club at dawn after being there all night with that disheveled clothing. I don't think they can keep up. They're going to end up with a lot of turnovers. I think they're playing a little over their heads right now. I'm actually going to go with the North Carolina Tar Heels at number 1. I still think they have the most talent, and even though they had that horrible loss to the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, who are unlikely to win another conference game this season, I think the Tar Heels should be number 1 in the power rankings. Deputy Dog, Coach Williams, and the Heels.
Well, I have the Heels at a close second. Heels number 2. I'll give you my top 5 right now. We got the Criminals, number 1, followed by the Tar Heels. Number 3, Wahoo Wah. Number 4, Hokie 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 High. And number 5, the questionable ACC team, Notre Dame.
Wow, that is certainly some boldness. You know what? As all of our listeners know, this gives me great pain to say this, but I'm going to go with UNC number 1. I'm going to go with the Duke Blue Devils number 2. I still think they have some of the best talent if they can put it all together. Now, Emil Jefferson out injured right now. Not sure how long he'll be out. They certainly need him if they're going to get more than 8 to 10 rebounds in a single game. But Luke Kennard has been scoring well. Jason Tatum, I mean, this guy looks like the next Grant Hill. He has been phenomenal this season. I don't expect a lot from Harry Giles, but as long as they allow Grayson Allen to stay on the team, I think that they will hang in tight scoring. So I'm still going to list them at number 2. I know they lost on the road to the Seminoles last night, but I still think at the end of the day, Duke will be more consistent than Florida State will this season. I am going to put Florida State and third after UNC and Duke. I'm going to stick with UVA in 4th, although I'm interested to see that's basically based on a lot of faith that Tony Bennett's teams will improve throughout the season as they always do. I'm not sure that their guards can continue to get separation against some of the top ACC teams on the offensive end of the floor, and the defense has been a little bit inconsistent, even giving up some open three-pointers, but I still think their losses thus far have been accredited to hot shooting games both by Dwayne Bacon and by Pitt's entire team, which was a bad matchup last weekend. And I think 5th, for now, I'm going to stick with Louisville. I know they've been up and down as well. They had an unfortunate start to the ACC season playing their kryptonite UVA in Game 1. Pitino cannot compete with Bennett, especially even at home, which you got to protect your home floor. But they just create so many turnovers with their aggressive defense. I think they'll be able to turn those into easy baskets and score too many points to get out in the open floor. So I'm going to go UNC, Duke, FSU, UVA, Louisville, a little bit of a chalky top 5, but I think we'll start to see some movement as we get into the second 5.
Now, in life, with most things, I take them at face value. So I'm thinking about right here, right now, middle of January 2017, and that's what has informed my ACC power rankings. So thus far, just 1 through 5, you can see some real differences between myself and the Reverend Big Al. 2 sets of eyes, watching the same games, coming to some very different conclusions.
Well, I got to be honest, Brian. When was the last time we went head-to-head on something and you were right? I mean, we had Clemson beating Alabama last week. Yeah, I called it. You heard it here. So I don't know. That's just one example of how I get things right and you don't. So it's fine that we can disagree, but I think our listeners know who they're paying attention to.
All right, well, we'll let them chime in and come to those conclusions on their own. Now back to the power rankings. Let's look at 6 through 10. For me, I've got Louisville at number 6. At number 7, Clemson. And then 8, we'll sneak Duke in there. I've been largely unimpressed and, frankly, see not a lot of promise with the Duke Blue Devils this year. Got them sliding in at 8. Number 9, Miami. On second thought, I probably should have put them higher. I would trust, Jim Larinaga with any group of 5 dudes to put together something slick. And rounding out, number 10, Cuse, despite their loss to the Hokies last night. So that's Louisville, Clemson, Duke, Miami, Syracuse, 6 through 10.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you some more. And again, I have to reiterate to our listeners, these are not sportsmanship rankings, and that's why you heard Duke at number 8 and not 15. It is just a power ranking based on what they do on the court, not necessarily off it or after the whistle, if you will. That being said, I'm going to go with number 6, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Their offense is incredible. They rarely turn the ball over, but again, I have them at number 6. I can't wait to see when they win a game with their defense. I don't think they will. They're going to have to pull out a lot of close games by outscoring opponents, but I do have them at number 6. Number 7, I'm going to go with the Clemson Tigers. That's right. Football and basketball reigning supreme in the upstate of South Carolina this year. It's a little shocking. Probably one of the best teams they've had in years, in my opinion, although still 7th in the ACC power rankings here just because the conference is that loaded.
Hey, where do they play?
Little John Coliseum.
Okay.
That's right. Not to be confused with Little John's Sandwich Company in Charlottesville, which is also delicious. I always go for the nuclear myself. Shout out to Little John's, open 24/7 on the corner. All right, let's move on to number 8. I guess I will throw the Virginia Tech Hokies in there. They have had some good wins at home, beating Duke and Syracuse. Have yet to see them show up for a road game in the conference, although they did get that big win in the ACC Big Ten Challenge over those pathetic Michigan Wolverines. Of course, pathetic in the Big Ten might get you second or third place this year. So that's 6, 7, 8. Let's see. I'm going to go with 9. I'll go with Syracuse there. You know, they were certainly very up and down, heavier on down in the non-con, but with that 2-3 zone, they're always talented on defense, and I think they'll hang in there enough to hang on in 9th place. And number 10, I will also go with Miami, mainly based on my faith in Jim Larinaga as a great coach. They do have some athletic talent back, but you haven't heard a lot from them this season. But they're always hard to scout and prepare for because Larinaga does coach them up real well down at the U. So that's our 6 through 10 here on this side. Notre Dame, Clemson, Virginia Tech, Syracuse, and Miami.
Frankly, I get as excited for the bottom 5 as I do the top 5. They're just, fighting to not be the worst. And they're putting up some good fights to be the worst. I'll start with 11, Wake Forest, 12, Pitt, 13, Boston College, 14, Georgia Tech, and 15, State. Wow, if you caught 30 seconds of that game on Sunday.
You caught enough.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer to put NC State at 15 right now. I mean, wow. So that's my bottom 5, Wake, Pitt, Boston College, Georgia Tech, NC State.
Well, McBrien, you could tell that you've done your research on the bottom 5 because, you know what? I think I completely agree with you. That's a great bottom 5. We're going to go with Wake Forest, talented team, see what Danny Manning and them boys can do the rest of the season. Pitt, they can shoot the lights out. They're basically all 6'5", 6'6", or 6'7". It's like one team of all guys that play the same position. Makes them hard to guard if you're a defense that likes to hedge on ball screens, maybe even double at the post. Wahoo-wah. But that being said, when they get hot, they can put up points. When they're not, they won't. But they did hang tight with Louisville tonight. We'll keep them in the 12 spot. BC, as of this recording, is looking good against NC State. If they can hold on, that'll really help solidify their place. I'm going to be honest, for a guy who watches a good amount of ACC basketball, I'm not sure I could name a single guy on Boston College's team. But that's what it doesn't matter. It's about the team and not the individual. And nobody believes in that more than the Eagles of Boston College. 14, we'll go with Georgia Tech. They got that surprise win over North Carolina to start the year. And, yeah, I'm just disgusted with NC State. Mr. Got-Fired here brings in talent every single year and does nothing but watch them lose games on the court. I mean, the game on Sunday was just it was offensive to the sport of basketball. And I don't think anybody in the league could stand for it. If the ACC basketball was in a survivor league, NC State wouldn't be in the ACC anymore. They'd have to join the CAA or some other conference where they could.
That's a great conference.
It would, yeah. I'm not saying they'd get higher than 8th. I'm just saying they'd get kicked out of ACC. It'd be like survivor. So I think the real story is how many women on NC State's campus has Mark Godfrey tried to sleep with this season, because he's clearly spending more time there than he is coaching the team. So Dennis Smith Jr., I think he's going to be the first guy to declare for the NBA in February, because he's going to realize that just like Leonard Fournette knew playing in the bowl game would not help his draft status, I think Dennis Smith Jr. realizes, hey, if I play any more games for this dang awful team, it's not going to help my draft status. That guy is all about me, and he's going to be all about trying to get the number 1 pick by sitting out the last month of the season.
Wow. Well, you have heard here for 2017, our first edition of ACC Power Rankings. If you disagree at all, you can kindly chime in on Twitter using hashtag AskLWB.
That's right. Kindly. Let's keep it respectful, everybody.
Yes, purely respectful. Got one more question for the Reverend Big Al. Of these 15 teams that we've just ranked, how many are making it to the tournament in March? And I'm referring to the main tournament, not the NIT or the CBI or the CIT or the Vegas 16. How many are making it to the big dance? Those other tournaments matter, though.
Man, that is the question. Oh, it's going to be so tough. I really think, especially teams 6 through 12 are just so even in there. It's really going to depend on how some of those do, and some of the ones had better non-conference resumes than others. I'd love to say more, Brian. Would love to see them get 11 or 12 and really exert their dominance in March Madness, but I'm going to go with 10. I think the cutoff is the top 10. I think Q squeezes in. I think Wake Forest and Pitt do not make it and are relegated to the NIT tournament. I don't think either of those teams had strong enough non-conference resumes to compete with mediocre ACC records. But listen, I think the best part about the ACC this year is that every game is competitive. There will be very few blowouts, and so you just never know what's going to happen when you tune in this season. Lots of competitive games. Cannot wait to keep watching.
You heard it here. 10 ACC teams will make the tournament, according to the Reverend Big Al. Now, this weekend, there is some NFL action. I know many listeners are excited about the NFL action on the horizon, so we're going to rapid fire through these games. First matchup on Saturday at 4:35, we have Seattle at Atlanta. Atlanta, 5-point favorites. I see the totals at 51.5. I think with Matt Ryan, I would easily take the over, but straight up, who do you have winning this?
I'm going to go with the home team. I know that's the popular pick, but listen, I don't care that Seattle blew out the Lions last Saturday. I mean, the Lions quarterback doesn't even have 10 fingers anymore. How could they compete? I think the real winner here is the Falcons because they get to play a beat-up Seattle team. I know people believe in their defense, but listen, those guys are falling apart. Without Earl Thomas, they're not as deep in the back end. I think they're going to have trouble defending the varied passing attack of the Falcons. And listen, teams just don't roll into the Georgia Dome and win playoff football games. Well, at least teams named Seattle. Pretty much everyone else does. But Seattle has not done well in the Georgia Dome, and I think that keeps up on Saturday.
I'm taking Seattle. I have not seen Matty Ice play in January in a way that gives me a lot of confidence in taking the Falcons here. Seattle, while they're not the full team that they've been in the last few years, have a lot of the essential parts that I think will carry them in a close one.
Going to be difficult to block Vic Beasley off the edge, especially him coming off that high of Clemson winning the national championship. But I respect your opinion.
Well, I think Seattle and Atlanta is the only game worth watching on Saturday because the nightcap at 8:15 is Houston at 15-point favorite New England. Does this one get you excited? I'm going to have it on. I won't lie, but very little anticipation there.
Well, I'll tell you why it gets me excited. I have a lot of trouble getting to bed on Saturday nights because I'm watching sports of some kind, but it gives me lots of problems when I'm nodding off from the chancellor on Sunday mornings. So I'm excited that this week I can go to bed before halftime because this game will be well in hand for the Patriots, who I expect to win by at least 4 touchdowns on Saturday. This might be worse than when they had the Saturday night game against the Tim Tebow-led Denver Broncos back in 2012.
Wow, I remember that so fondly. Coming off the first play of overtime touchdown pass against Pittsburgh, right?
That's right. That was the week before, but the magic ended quickly when they took the field against a legitimate playoff team that season in the Patriots.
Yes, let's move on to Sunday. Speaking of those Pittsburgh Steelers, they travel to Kansas City at 1:05. I have a lunch after worship, so I think I might miss the first quarter. But this one's going to be a great game. Kansas City's 1.5-point favorites. I will go with Pittsburgh on the road. The brilliant William and Mary educated mind of Mike Tomlin. I trust his leadership and will side with the Steelers here in a close one.
I'm going to go against you again. I like the Kool-Aid man himself, Andy Reid, to lead the Chiefs to victory. Tyreek, the Thrill Hill, getting possibly some return yards. Listen, I don't know why everybody's high on the Steelers. Yeah, they got Le'Veon Bell. Yeah, they got Antonio Brown. But they have not shown up on the road much at all this season, and I don't see why it's going to be any different just because it's the playoffs. I don't believe you can just turn it on. The Chiefs have been sitting and getting healthy for a couple weeks waiting, and I expect them to take care of the Steelers on Sunday afternoon.
The game I am most excited for this weekend is Green Bay at Dallas. That's at 4:40 on Sunday. I think this one will be back and forth and highly competitive. I will give the edge to Dallas, because they're a very good football team. That pains me to say as a Washingtonian. However, I think Dallas has the edge over Green Bay, but Green Bay is also very good. And I think this is the marquee game of the weekend.
I agree with you, Brian. I think it's going to be the closest game of the weekend, the most exciting. Certainly looks like two teams with offenses that can put up a lot of points, especially after seeing what Aaron Rodgers and the Packers did against the New York Giants and their defense that had been hot at least the past few weeks of the season. But that being said, I agree with you. That offensive line and running game of Dallas, I think, is going to be too much. I don't think Aaron Rodgers can put enough points by himself, although it will be interesting to see how Dak Prescott does in his first playoff game. He's done well as a starter all year, but he's also been set up well. I mean, very rarely throughout the season has Dallas even been down, let alone have they been trailing by more than one score. If Rodgers is able to get a couple quick scores on him, it could really turn things to see if Dallas gets away from the running game. But I don't think Rodgers can. I think he'll start slow, and I think the Cowboys will be able to put up enough points to win this one in a shootout. So I'll go with Dallas, but you know what? I'm going to root for A-Rod and the Packers to come out on top, just, with my heart on this one. Would love to see that passing offense keep playing in the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm unquestionably pulling for Green Bay as well. Would love to see Dallas get knocked out.
And it'll be Tony Romo's fault, even if he's holding a clipboard. But I think the big issue in this game is Green Bay is likely to be without Jordy Nelson. And whenever you lose a wide receiver with speed, it's hard to make that up. I don't think Devontae Adams and Randall Cobb can replace his speed on the outside.
That is certainly one way to interpret the loss of Jordy Nelson. Whatever happens on the scoreboard and on the field, it is going to be a fun weekend of football. If you have any questions, thoughts, or observations you want to share with us as you watch the games this weekend, you can always tweet us using hashtag AskLWB. Now we're going to hear, do you have any more thoughts on that?
I don't think so. I think it's time to kick it to our sponsor. These podcasts ain't free.
They are not. So let's roll to our sponsor for the day. Hey, this is Brian here, and if you enjoy listening to the Living Water Boys, which, let's be honest, you're 22 minutes into an episode, you definitely enjoy listening to the Living Water Boys. Since you find yourself in that category, I encourage you to go on iTunes and leave us a review. The more reviews that are left for us, the greater audience we can reach as a podcast. We have some incredible reviews on iTunes, and you're probably not surprised to hear that we have a perfect 5-star rating. I'm going to read one of these ratings for you. Living Water Boys, we've been on the air for quite a while. This one comes from last year, 2016, on September 8th. Listener writes in, hands down, the best podcast I have ever heard. I love the combination of sports and church life. I'm always entertained and challenged. Thanks be to God for the LWB. Wow, as someone who pours in literally hour a week into the Living Water Boys, really warms my heart to hear a listener chime in with that feedback. So thank you to iTunes user Alan P. Smith. Back to the show.
Oh, well, as always, we're grateful for all our sponsorships and definitely that loyal listener, Alan P. Smith, whoever it might be, for those honest and fair and really flattering words. So thank you to all our listeners, especially Alan P. Smith, for rating us back in September. Guys, always, you can find our podcast on iTunes and give us a rating. That certainly helps us to get promoted, get more listeners, which helps us to continue providing this free content to you. So thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you especially to Alan P. Smith for that thoughtful feedback, especially when it's all so glowing and positive. Anyway, Big Brian, it's time for our church life segment of the podcast. And listen, I think for a lot of us, this is an issue we deal with. I know it was an issue for some in South Carolina this weekend, was an issue for some in North Carolina, those places that can't handle their weather. And that's right. What do you do on a Sunday when there's bad weather? Let's talk about it the idea of canceling church. What are your thoughts, McBrien? When is it okay to shut down church for a Sunday, and when it is not? How do you handle it? Inclement weather, other events. Some churches might be altered for sporting events, etc. What do you do in these situations?
Well, I think the default for many faith communities is to follow the local school schedule. And personally, I would shy away from this. Many counties are so large that if just one area has not been cleared, the whole school system will have to shut down. But that doesn't mean the same thing when it comes to a church. The whole neighborhood around the church and large area of people who attend the church could be totally fine. So I think the decision should be made, should not be left to someone else, but the church should take ownership of it. And honestly, I think canceling should be the worst case scenario. It would have to be totally impassable roads to put the locks on the door and say, see you next week. It's been a while since I've seen a cancellation, but you experienced one this past weekend. Did you think it was the right move? And when do you think it's okay to put it off a week?
Well, Brian, I think it depends on what you're talking about here. I think certainly it's not fair to equate every service or every event on a Sunday with worship. I also don't think it's fair to equate worship with things on maybe a Wednesday evening. But I'm going to go with you here. I think the church's rule should be we never cancel. And if that means that you have worship for 10 people and you change what worship is and you do a couple songs on the piano and pray together, that's okay. You've still worshiped God. Now, I do think you need to be careful with how you encourage people to come. But I think at some point we have to trust our folks in the congregation to make their own decisions on if they're going to come or not, and if it's safe for them to come and if they can get out. I certainly think you should invite people to dress as appropriately as they feel necessary. But really, I think it's difficult to cancel church in any situation. I think one alternative that I've heard from some friends and colleagues, even here in the Triangle, is to look into things that are make worship able to be streamed to different people at their homes, like Facebook Live, etc., so that you could even have church but have it at home, and so that people wouldn't have to leave but could still worship. I think I'm okay with that as an alternative, because to me that feels like you haven't canceled. But the idea of canceling church just because of the weather just doesn't sit right. God doesn't take a break on us just because he hasn't had lunch or something like that. What do you think, Will?
Well, down in G Vegas, our very own Pastor Jim Dant felt the very same thing. He was actually not there on Sunday. He was in California for a friend's family death in a friend's family. And when asked what they should do for church, the office administrator asked him what we should do about church. And he said, don't cancel it. If they can't come, they can't come. They shouldn't feel bad just because they can't make one worship service. Of course, we stream our services every Sunday, and we were able to do that, and a lot of people joined us in that way. And sure, we had sort of a weak crowd, but it gave people the opportunity to come together in a place casually, like you said, and also, they looked at it as a way to get the whole neighborhood involved. We reached out to the neighborhoods around us and said, if you can walk here, if you can make it to church, please come. Even if you can't make it to your own church, we'd love to have you as a place to worship. We're very, we were very open, and I was very proud of the fact that we did not cancel church. I don't think it's ever a good idea to cancel church.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you again. In Raleigh, we did cancel this weekend, and I'm not going to lie, I enjoyed having a Sunday morning to relax, turn the fire on, and catch some pregame NFL countdown before some playoff games. But that being said, it's hard to feel like it was the right decision when I could have, I know it would have been slick roads. I know it would have been hard to get there, but you wonder if we could have used some technology to even put something together on through Google Hangout, etc. Maybe make it available to our church through Facebook or some other means, just so that people who were sitting at home could have some sort of experience or devotional or something. I wonder if even at a minimum we should have sent out some sort of mass email with a reflective thought, or maybe a written piece. It just feels like just completely shutting down. There's a lot of, even for us to remember that we have the blessing of being in a home where I had heat and electricity, but there were lots of people without power. There are people in the Raleigh community who are homeless. I wonder what Sunday morning was like for them when even churches had their doors shut and were not open. I don't know, Brian, does that help you to think any more about the topic?
Yeah. Just thinking about these digital options, I think I was going to say 5 years from now, but I'd even go down to 3 years from now. I think there will just be a default position that churches take maybe on a Wednesday or Thursday when they know weather's coming, to have something in place to facilitate a time of corporate worship on Sunday morning. With the internet, with how frequently people are plugged in, it would be, I would say, irresponsible to not utilize that resource to do something in the event that weather is forcing everyone to stay into their homes. So I think we'll see a lot more of this, in the coming years. And, I'm excited to see what it looks like. And as the one who gets asked the technical questions at my church, I might get the excitement of figuring out what that looks like.
Well, I got to be honest. There was a time when I was living in Richmond, Virginia. I knew that at our church we said we do not cancel. And so there was even a Sunday where we had just been hit with a hurricane back in 2011. We had limited power throughout the state, throughout the area. And we still had church in the chapel, open up the doors and windows, and really just gave ourselves a chance to worship, even for the limited number who could make it that day. Brian, I got to ask you a follow-up. What about holidays? Does it matter? I mean, this year was a unique year. Both Christmas and New Year's fell on a Sunday. I know one church here in Raleigh that has quite a few different campuses that canceled for both of those Sundays. What do you think about that?
I think you should absolutely still meet on a Sunday if it's a holiday. I have heard excuses said that, if Christmas is on a Thursday, we don't all decide to get up and go to church that morning. But I think to take it off just isn't right. There's a order to the week, which I feel like you can make a strong scriptural case for, that Sunday is a Sabbath, and that Sabbath includes coming together. So I think it makes the holiday even more special. Frankly, after chowing down on a bunch of bacon and biscuits on Christmas Day, I was pretty pumped to go to church this past Christmas. So my vote is absolutely still meet if it's a holiday. You with me here or against me?
Oh, absolutely. I'm with you. I mean, after all, it's Christmas. I don't understand how you cancel church for Christmas. That didn't make any sense to me. But you know what? The church who's guilty shall not be named. But no, I agree. Holidays, no matter what, I don't think you should cancel. That does, however, bring me to one church story from the past I want to share with you guys real quick before we get off for today. And that is that we as a church a couple years ago participated in a Stop Hunger Now project as a church. Thought it was a neat thing. For those that don't know, Stop Hunger Now is an organization where you can package meals for hungry people worldwide, and it's a way to involve people of all ages in your church in a service project together. We packaged, I believe, over 45,000 meals on a Sunday morning at our church a couple years ago. And what we ended up doing is worshiping together at our early service at 8:45, called it one joint service. We usually do 8:45 and 11. So we had one service at 8:45 for everybody. And then we shifted to our fellowship hall and packaged meals until about 11:30, and that was it for the day. Now, what was neat about that is that it gave everyone a chance to worship together and serve together one morning, no Sunday school, etc. But I'll tell you, it was challenging. We had one older lady who was supposed to be a greeter for the 11 o'clock service, and it was clear that she was not happy that we canceled church that day. Again, I would not argue we canceled. I would argue we had a joint service at 8:45, but I guess that's semantics. So this member of our church stood at the door at 11 o'clock, and as people came in who did not realize that we had a different schedule that day, they'd missed emails or hadn't been in a couple of weeks, etc. She was sure to write down each of their names to make sure that she had a list of all the people who did not like that there was church, or not church, excuse me, at 11 o'clock and showed up in protest. Now, to be honest, most of those people came up to me in the hallway and said, I didn't really want my name on her list. I don't mind that you're doing this. It's my fault for being late. So I don't think that many were actually upset. But it just goes to show you what one little woman will do when she tries to collect the names of all those who are mad that you canceled church. So I think you do have to be careful with the semantics. But that being said, yes, I don't think you should ever cancel. I think you got to find a way to let people worship together. I mean, after all, isn't that Sunday morning worship supposed to be where we get our energy for the rest of the week? And, I felt a little bit tired this week, and I only wonder if it's because I didn't get my fill of the Holy Spirit on Sunday like I normally should have. That being said, we want to segue to our special segment we'll have here for the next few months to wrap up the Living Water Boys, and that's going to come from our producer, Will the Thrill, down in Columbia. Will, you're taking a podcasting class this summer. What's one thing you learned so far that you want to share with our listeners?
Well, today in podcast class, we didn't do much. We got the class started, and she had asked us before what our favorite podcast was. And I said, of course, hello, it's the podcast that I myself produce along with Reverend Big Al and Mick Bryan, the Living Water Boys. So then she made me explain what the Living Water Boys are and what we do. And I think we have like 30 more listeners now. So that's what happened today in podcast class.
Well, thanks for sharing. Always good to hear from you. And I look forward to more lessons sharing with our audience. As always, guys, remember, even though you hear these great tips from Will the Thrill, do not try any of these at home. We have got to stick with the professionals here, so we'll let our expert Will the Thrill. That's right. And one of our experts handle that on our tips on a regular basis. That being said, thank you all for listening. McBrien, any words as we wrap it up for this week?
I'm just filled with joy because it's the first time on the Living Water Boys we have heard the Reverend Big Al, worship whisperer. I hope that's not the last time we get that treat.
Well, it will not be. It will not be, my friends. Will the Thrill, why don't you take us home?
Gladly. Once again, thank you for joining us on the Living Water Boys episode 17. We hope you enjoyed it. You can always follow us on Twitter at the Living Water Boys. Ask us a few questions, hashtag #AskLWB, and you can email us at thelivingwaterboys@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. Have a great day, great night, whenever you're listening. Goodbye. Take me
I'm
home.
on fire.
Take me home tonight.
We